Okay, it's 6:30. We'll call this meeting to order. Welcome council, welcome viewers. Item number 2 on our agenda, disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. Joe,
Section 12, subsection 12.1.
thank you. Thank you. Are there any others? None. Okay. Approval or amendments of meeting agenda. Be it resolved that council approve the agenda of the regular meeting dated May the 18th, 2021 as presented. Moved by Doug, second by Bill. Is there any amendments or nothing? All in favor? Carried. Approval of minutes. Be it resolved that council approve the following minutes as presented. Regular meeting, April the 27th, 2021. Special meeting of May the 4th, 2021. A mover and a seconder, please. Joe and Matt. Any discussion on the issue, on the minutes? All in favor? Thank you. Carried. Is there any business arising from the minutes? None. No inquiries from the general public. We have no delegations or presentations tonight. Item 8. Business arising from designation and presentations, obviously none. Item 9 is staff and committee reports. 9.1 Public Works Report. 9.2 is Animal Control Report. 9.3 is Bylaw Enforcement Report. 9.4 is Fire Chief Report. Be it resolved that council accept the staff and committee reports as presented. Mover and a seconder. Matt.
Your worship, I'd like to bring to the attention of council that the animal control report that we have in hand here that has been submitted is from March. It is not from April.
Okay, very good. I was going to bring that up under discussions, Matt, if there was anything to discuss. The mover was Pat and seconded by Doug. Okay, you, Matt, you wanted to mention that the minutes were April or March instead of April's?
Animal control report
animal
again.
Control?
Yeah,
okay.
It seems that we have some issues with the animal control reports as of late. So if we could follow up on that, that would be great.
Mm-hmm. Sounds good. I agree with you 100%. Is there anything else in the reports that anybody would like to discuss or mention?
Excuse me on that, George. We notified late after the agenda was out. We notified the animal control officer that the wrong item was sent in, but I haven't received the up-to-date one. We'll be looking for that.
Okay, thank you very much, John. Bill, you had your hand up, and Joe?
Yes, I think John clarified my question, Your Worship. Just wanted to know if she submitted this, but yeah, definitely it's for March. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Joe?
I'd just like to give the Cobalt Fire Department their message that they gave to us in their paperwork for the people too. The 72 hours in case of major emergency, make sure that you and your family can be self-sufficient for 3 full days. And also for the bylaw, every home must have a carbon monoxide detector and working smoke alarms on every story and outside all sleeping areas. That's exceptionally important. That happened to me once, and that's a really good advice to give to the people.
Very, very good points, Councillor Dubé. Councillor Anderson?
Just like to say, this past month, well, the beginning of May, beginning of May for animal control, she was setting the live traps again in our area to pick up and take dogs or cats down for the spay neuter clinic, and she's been doing that about once a month. She has another one scheduled for the end of May or early June, more appointments too. So we're getting more and more of our cats neutered so that we won't have too many problems left in the end.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there any more discussion on the reports from staff and committees? Okay, all in favor? Carried. Item 10, correspondence for council direction. 10.1, review of report on the pros and cons for reducing the council numbers from 6 to 4. Be it resolved that council accept the report and direct the staff to seek public consultation on the matter prior to deciding on whether to proceed with changes to the council's composition. Mover and a seconder, please. Bill? And Joe? Okay, do we have any discussion on this? Go ahead, Joe.
I like the idea of 6 councillors and 1 mayor, because everyone has their specialties and what they're good at. So the more people you have involved, I find it's much better. I'll use myself an example. For stuff for library and museums, and so I'm not very well versed in it, but I'm exceptionally well versed in public works areas, manufacturing, that kind of stuff. So I lean on other people's for their advice, and having a larger council members of 6 instead of 4 kind of gives you that pool of knowledge and talent a little larger than what we would have with 4. I understand the cost might be a little greater, but I think for overall, 6 is much better than 4. Those are my views.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Dubé. Pat?
There we go. Yeah, I agree with Councillor Dubé on that we found, especially this administration, we've got a good diversity of people, so that it always seems like there's someone that's specialized. And on the other hand, our John Hodgson's ideas and the staff ideas were good too. So I'm still wishy-washing back and forth, but I think 6 has served us well over the years, and means that we've got some strengths there too.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Anderson. Bill?
Yeah, through you, your worship. Yeah, this was a well report put together by John. I'm for one, I'm reducing the cost of the ratepayer. I'm all for. I mean, the salary dollars for the councillors do not come out of, they're not supported by grants. They're supported solely by the community. We got a raise. Reducing by 2 councils is going to save $12,000. So that might affect, reducing a tax a bit, but I'm all for that. The other thing too, I think you get a better pool of people who run for council. You get better choices. We're a small town. We're just about less than 1,000 people, or around 1,000. 4 councillors should do it, as far as I'm concerned. I think reducing it to 4, and that seems to be the way a lot of the smaller towns are going to right now. So anything to reduce our costs, I still think we're going to get a good pool of people. So yeah, I'm in favor of it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Gabani. Go ahead, Matt.
Through you, your worship, I'm in agreement with Councillor Dubé. I believe that diversity is a strength in this council, and having 6 councillors around the table that are all well versed in their own separate fields has served us well, especially during the tumultuous times that we've been through for the past few years. Also, it begs the question, what's the vision that we have for Cobalt? Are we going to send the message that we're shrinking, that we're becoming not as relevant? Are we adjusting for the sake of adjusting and not looking down the road to see if there is a need for that diversity moving forward? I think it requires a bit more than just some point form pros and cons. I would really like to see the public's input on this, This has been something that's gone through council, almost 20 years now. And each time it's gone through council, it's been rejected, not only by the council themselves, but also by the public. Again, with very good reasons. Some I've actually outlined myself. The vision for Cobalt is important, and certainly the public input. I get the $12,000 savings. I totally get that. And at the end of the day, that is important, but so is the future of Cobalt moving forward, and playing to those strengths and the diversity around the table, again, has served us very well, and I think has put us in a very positive position. I appreciate all the work that this council has completed, and it couldn't have been completed if we didn't have the diversity around the table that we have currently.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Adsett. Councillor Wilcox?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm going to agree wholeheartedly with Councillors Dubé and Johnson. This idea has come up on every council. This is my third council, so all three have raised this idea. On my first council, we discussed it, but didn't even go to a vote. We just decided it was not the best interest of our ratepayers. And we do that because I think, as all of us, when we came to council, we all said transparency was important to us. And one thing about being transparent is being prominent in the community, accessible in the community. And the more people, the more councillors you have, the more relationships you have with the community, the better the communication with the community. It's not unlike the committee of the whole meetings where you have it, you discuss issues that are then going to council for vote. That also tells the community what they might want to be concerned about and put their input in ahead of the vote, well ahead of the vote. So it's important that we work with our people and give them every opportunity to access council. The other thing I would say is, and I understand very much the idea of trying to reduce costs, but I think also with 6 people, and as Councillor Dubé said, when you have various forms of expertise, whether it be Angela with accounting and seniors, Joe with public works, Matthew with a broad, diverse background, Bill with some terrific stuff from the government side. We all bring our strengths. Pat with the historical aspect, George with a steady hand at the tiller. There, I got everybody in. But we have to try very hard to bring all of our talents to the forefront. And sometimes in that debate, and there will be always debates, the more points of view you have, the better the end result of this discussion will ultimately be. I thoroughly believe that. And the only analogy I could come up with, and I tried hard to think of a good one, was, well, why don't they do this with juries? And I thought, what defendant in his right mind would want to see a jury reduced from 12 to 4? I don't think anybody would. A prosecutor might, but a defense counsel wouldn't, because we have these traditions. They've evolved over in the democratic British North American side hundreds of years, and they were all done that way for good reason. Earlier towns started out with smaller populations too, but there was wisdom in numbers, and I'm always going to support that idea. Thank you.
Thank you, Angela.
I agree with Councillor Dubé and Johnson and Wilcox. They've pretty much reiterated everything that was going through my head, as well as I would like to see us get together a plan for the town going forward, because I believe if you look ahead, that's going to involve some committees. And if you cut back to 4 councillors, that's that much less committees you're also going to be able to have, because otherwise it gets to be too much for one person. And not everybody tends to participate. So I think you have a better chance of moving the town forward that way with the plans for the future after we get the planning done. I think this is something that might be a little too soon.
Okay, very good. Is there any more comments then? Go ahead, Bill.
So are we going, through your worship, are we going to put this out for public input before we make a decision? Is that the
Okay.
plan?
Okay, 1 second. I'll ask John here what the procedure is.
Thank you, Your Worship. The intent of the actual resolution is to accept the report and proceed with perhaps a public meeting to seek public consultation on the matter. But if when it comes time to vote on this matter, if the vote of the majority is turning the report down, then that effectively kills it. If the report is supporting going through that process, then that means you go through another public process that comes back to council, and council then looks at the public input. So if the majority of the members are feeling strongly that 6 is the number and 4 isn't, then it's simple as voting against the motion.
Okay, thank you very much, John. Doug?
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to second Angela's point about committee work on council. I noticed the previous council, when they were considering this matter, had noted that by withdrawing from a lot of outside committees, there was perhaps lesser work and therefore no need for extra councillors. And I note that our mayor, when we were elected, ran on the platform that council get more involved in the committees in town, particularly those groups that we financially support. And I think that is critical in long-term planning. I think we need, if we're going to be financially supporting organizations, I think we should have representation at their boards and be putting forward what councils would like to see their direction take. I think that's just very critical. And I want to thank Councillor Adshead for bringing that up. With respect to the current comments from John, yes, we have a motion on the table and it should be called and we can vote on it and see where it goes.
Okay, there are no more comments. Are we prepared to vote then on this? All in favor? Opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4. Opposed? Opposed wins.
Excuse me, Your Worship, can we have a recorded vote here? I think I got mixed up a bit here.
It's too late now. Sorry, Councillor Gabani. John had made it quite clear, I think, before we got into it, that what the process was. So I'm sorry. Okay, so we will not go any further into that. 10.2, intermunicipal service agreement for the administration of provincial offenses allowing set fines to be transferred to individual property tax accounts. Be it resolved that the town of Cobalt enter into an agreement with the city of Temiskaming Shores that will allow any defaulted fine to be added to the tax roll to any property owned by the defaulting property owner. A mover and a seconder, please. Matt and Joe. Discussion on the matter? All in favor? $10.3. Yes, Angela, you had your hand up?
No, I was voting.
Okay. Establishment of an ad hoc committee to review the letter of understanding between the town and the union local for work and foreman responsibility and whether to maintain the position with the union. Be it resolved that, before we get into this, I see my name is on there as a designate. I would prefer to have another counselor on that if anybody's agreeable to that. I'm ex officio anyway, so it doesn't really matter to me. So if anybody is interested in sitting on that committee, please let us know. Go, Angela.
I noticed Joe also had his hand up, so I guess one of us would be willing to.
Okay, do you want to make a decision right now on it, Joe or Angela?
I think Joe's had more experience down there. I think it would be good for him to sit on it.
Are you agreeable with that, Councillor Dubé?
Yeah, I'll sit on this, not a problem.
10-4. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Be it resolved that council designate Councillor Joe Dubé, Councillor Matthew Johnson, and Councillor Doug Wilcox to establish an ad hoc committee for the purpose of reviewing the letter of understanding attached to the union agreement. Moved by and second. Pat and Angela. Is there any further discussion on the matter? All in favor? Thank you. Correspondence for council information. 10.4, review of correspondence to the town of Englehart from DSAB. I'm going to ask CAO John to give us an update on what's transpired at DSAB in the last couple of days. Okay.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. The correspondence that you see in front of you that relates to the town of Englehart is for your information and background. Today, there was a meeting with DSAB representatives, myself and the Deputy Clerk Treasurer, to go over the actual machinations or workings of how caseloads are costed out, and most importantly, the process for going forward with the council's desire to have one of the buildings run by DSAB that were formerly senior buildings only to be redesignated as a seniors building. So the process or the pathway for that looks like it may be difficult, but I'll be bringing a report back to council next meeting with recommendations on proceeding to make a presentation to the DSAB board stating the desire to have one of the buildings designated as seniors only. Further to that, there's further work on the number of units that are in the town of Cobalt, especially recognizing our size. So we're talking with DSAB on that, and with particular reference to the Fraser building. So a report will be coming to council at the next council meeting to go over those matters.
Okay, thank you very much, John. And 10.5 is the Kirkland Lake Opioid Poisoning Prevention Task Force. Be it resolved that council accept the correspondence items as presented. Mover and a seconder, please. Matthew and Angela. And is there any discussion on these two matters? Go ahead, Joe.
I think I'm missing a lot of the information. I only got a half a letter. It stops where it says, therefore, letters support us, or perhaps we could be informed as to when. That's all I got.
Okay, 1 second, John will address that. I don't have any more either.
That is what we were sent. So I believe that the intention of the organization that sent that cutoff notification to us was that they were looking for council to support their efforts. So if that's the direction of the staff, we can draw up a letter to them saying that the council is in support of their efforts to address some of the issues in the ongoing opioid crisis.
Okay, thank you, John. Matthew?
Through your worship, just to add, the KL Opioid Poisoning Prevention Task Force is actually a subcommittee of the Temiskaming Substance Use Disorder Support Task Force, which I sit on. So I'm familiar with the goings on of this subcommittee, and I myself am in support, as I'm sure my fellow councillors are around the table, considering the opioid epidemic within Northern Ontario. And I would certainly hope that we could collectively support this initiative.
Absolutely. Is there any more comments? I think it's time that something started getting done on this. We've been battling this monster for years now, and it's time that we try and help. whichever way we can. All in favor of a letter of support? Thank you very much. Bylaws 11.1. Be it resolved that bylaw 2021-19 being a bylaw to establish a tax ratio to be taken as read a first, second, and third time and finally passed this 18th day of May 2021. Moved by and second. Pat and Matt. Discussion on the issue? Go ahead, Matt.
Through your worship, I believe during the next round of budget talks next year, you know what? Strike that. As soon as we possibly can, if we can get out to the general public and explain how tax ratios work. I've received a number of different questions and I've been speaking to people since our budget meeting and trying to outline exactly how these tax ratios work. And there seems to be a significant amount of confusion, especially around multi-residential, commercial, industrial, and how that blend actually works. So if we could just put together some sort of point form notes, I don't know how we could do it, put it in with the tax bill itself, just give a better explanation about how these work, but a simple Coles Notes version of how these tax ratios work would be much appreciated by many ratepayers in town.
Yeah, I agree. It does create a lot of confusion. Is there any other comments? I think we could put something like that together, John, for the next water bill. Sorry, tax bill. Okay, all in favor? Okay, 11.2, a bylaw to provide the adoption of the 2021 tax rates for municipal and school purposes. Be it resolved that bylaw 2021-20 being a bylaw to provide for the adoption of 2021 tax rates for municipal and school purposes and further to provide penalty and interest for payment in default. Mover and a seconder, please. Joe and Doug. Discussion? Being no discussion, all in favor? Carried. 11.3, bylaw to authorize the submission of an application to the Ontario Infrastructure and Lands Corporation, OILC, for financing of the Public Works Garage. Be it resolved that bylaw 2021-21 to authorize the submission of an application to Ontario Infrastructure and Lands Corporation for financing of certain ongoing capital works of the Corporation of the Town of Cobalt to authorize temporary borrowing from OILC to meet expenditures in connection with such capital works, and to authorize long-term borrowing for such capital works through the issue of debenture to OILC be taken and read a first, second, and third time and finally passed this 18th day of May 2021. Can we have a mover and a seconder, please? Go ahead, Doug.
I was just moving, George.
Okay, Joe, you have any discussion?
I was also moving for it.
Oh, okay, thank you very much. Okay, Pat.
There we go. Long time overdue. I'm so glad we finally reached this spot and that we have a budget in the town this year that we can look forward to getting the town crew their new digs down there. Way overdue, and I'm just so happy. So you know what my vote is.
Thank you. Angela?
I'm confused. Why are we applying for the funding when we haven't approved the building and don't know the costs yet? Like we approved it in the budget, but we haven't seen any plans. We haven't approved any plans. We don't know for sure what it's going to cost. So why are we applying for money?
Go ahead, John.
Thank you, Your Worship. You'll note in here the actual wording is the wording that the OILC has in the borrowing, and you'll also note that it doesn't state the amount. So the amount that we've asked them for approval to borrow is $800,000, which we believe will the budget for the actual construction will come in under that after we've done all the work for getting a number of quotes and everything else. So one of the problems that we have now, and I had hoped we would have the actual contract with the contractor that is going to be proposed for this, would be at this meeting, but it's not. And part of the problem is the cost of steel is keeps fluctuating every day. This is a situation where quotes are only held for sometimes up to only 2 days or 3 days. So I'm sure we're quite close. So my expectation is that, and certainly the expectation of OILC is that they know what the hard cost is. They know what we have to tell them exactly what we're going to do if the costs come over 800,000. We have to tell them what we're going to do if the costs come under 800,000. They have in front of them a number of our financial papers, including our financial information. They've asked us a number of questions that we're working with our auditor to provide to them so that this is a clear-cut decision. So once all of those answers are set and we have a contract in front of you to consider, then that's going to come to probably a special meeting, hopefully a special meeting before the next regular council meeting. So at that time, the approval of the actual construction with the details of the construction components and everything else, we have most of those in front of us now, but we don't have a final. We have a soft cost, so we know the range. We have a soft to hard cost so that we know what the range is with the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. We believe we're well within the $800,000. So that firm, and then it's an excellent point, Councillor, that is coming to council as a separate issue that we were hoping to have by now. However, one of the reasons why we put this bylaw in place now is without the loan from the Infrastructure Ontario, without that approval, this goes nowhere. So we have to have the approval in place, and then we have to set in place all the components so that it meets the requirements of the lending institution.
Go ahead, Councillor Edsel.
So it's kind of related but unrelated. When you get something from the contractor, are we going to have time to review it? Just to see if any of us see something that maybe got missed elsewhere? Like plans, not just the contract.
This will be coming to council, yes.
So the actual plans we'll be seeing.
Yes, I believe we'll be seeing the actual plans and the actual cost at a special meeting.
Okay.
Any other comments or discussion? I agree with you, Councillor Anderson is badly needed, and it is well deserved. It's we're just living on the shoestring down there as it is. Okay, general business. 12.1 schedule of accounts. Be it resolved that council receive the following schedules as presented. Schedule number 2021-8 in the amount of $142,589. Hey. Oh, yes, Councillor Edsel.
Oh, we didn't vote on that last one? We discussed it. You got to move her in a second.
You're absolutely right. I'm sorry. All in favor. Okay, got it. Okay, I owe you one. Thanks. We're going to start over again. 12.1 schedule of accounts. Be it resolved that council received the following schedules as presented. Schedule number 2021-8 in the amount of $142,589.64. Schedule number 2021-9 in the amount of $94,348.52. A mover and a seconder, please. Angela and Doug. Discussion on the accounts? Go ahead, Matt.
Through your worship, line item, actually schedule 2021-09, line item 519 regarding the management of the Fraser building. Are the charges against this account for COTEM pass-through expenses, or are we covering COTEM's expenses for that building?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. They are pass-through expenses. So there are some shared costs that we share as the building owner for the one side, and there are shared costs. We do the split, and that's the split.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Any more questions? Okay, all in favor? Didn't miss it this time, Angela. Okay, 13, motion for which prior notice has been given. We have none. Mayor's report. I don't have anything tonight. Notice of motion, none. Councillor updates. Go ahead, Councillor Anderson. Pat, you're muted.
There we go. This is just an update from the last Historical Society meeting. There's nothing new on the O&R situation, so we're in a wait and see mode. They'll have their newsletter out this month. The Agnico Eagle Fund checks are out now, so that's good for all of our museums as well. And she was chatting with Rob Leverty of the Ontario Historical Society, and he said that we're not the only ones getting hit by threats of closure. He said many heritage groups in Ontario are suddenly dealing with it. You add in the pandemic and a right-wing government, and she said it's nearly impossible to even contact with a person to talk about, let alone successfully plead your case. So we're in the same boat as a lot of others. Elliott Lake is starting up a historical society to preserve the mining heritage there as well. And as well, on the artistic front, Catherine Maston has been retained by McMichael Canadian Art Collection to guest curate an exhibition on Cobalt's modern artists. So this will be for the winter of 2024. So they're going to help with the research on that. And that'll be just another little good peg for Cobalt too. And the repairs on the stiff legs and the Pan Silver mine head frame have stalled. So we'll have to look into that. And I think that's all I've got.
Okay, thank you very much. Anybody else? Bill?
Yes, true, Your Worship. I have a couple things. I'd like to inform council that the walking trail around the lake at the north end, where you go across a nice little bridge, there used to be a nice trail there. The ONR blocked that 2 places. I'm not sure why they're blocking the trail, whether they don't want access to the mine or they don't want access to people crossing the tracks. I'm not sure, but this has always been a nice little trail for people to walk around the lake, and now it's blocked. And I'm not sure if the rest of council know that, but it doesn't sit too well with me. I'd like to know what the reason is, why they put those barriers on the trail. That's one. And the other one is I'd like to inform council that there is a war memorial that I brought up to His Worship and John that's currently sitting down at the Public Works with names of former soldiers from the First World War who are deceased. They're etched in stone. I'm not quite sure the condition of it, but it was brought up to me by from a person from the public who does quite a bit of work on research and history, and actually informed me that the memorial was down there, and I passed that information on to John. So I just want to inform council that it's there, and in my opinion, it should be placed somewhere where that people can pay their respects, or it's a respectful gesture on our part to put it maybe perhaps at the park somewhere. So I'm not sure if people are aware of that, but it's there. It's in behind the garage, and it's been sitting there for a long time. So apparently.
Yeah, I can talk. I can speak to that. I can speak a bit to that too, Bill. It's down at this town shop. It's a 1914, 1919 memorial of all the soldiers who passed away from Cobalt. It's almost, it's a cenotaph. I guess it was the original cenotaph at one time before the Second World War. And it's in not bad shape really. And we're definitely going to look at a place to put that. John can speak to a little more about that now.
Just an update. I haven't actually got to George on this. I met with the president of the Legion this afternoon, and we discussed this issue. And so you will probably be seeing that memorial into the park across from the Legion in soon order. I think a decision is going to have to be made to leave it in its current state, or a decision is going to be made to have it repaired. But it's going to be sitting with the Legion executive shortly.
Okay, anybody who wants to see it, it's down at the shop. It's very visible. It's quite a unique, another find that we have. Councillor Anderson.
There we go. Just to answer Councillor Gabani's question about the blockages along the trail. Some of that trail does go on to the O&R land, and as part of all the protections they're putting up, that's why they've blocked it off. It's not that there's anything wrong with it. They're just blocking things off. So we'll just have to wait and go through all the process. That's all.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Anderson. Any more comments from council? Go ahead, Matt.
To your worship, this is just an update. Today I sat in on my first Temiskaming Substance Abuse Disorder Support Program Task Force meeting, or working group meeting. It's in its infancy stages, but it's a very good group. Majority of the group is out of Kirkland Lake, with quite a few newer members from our southern part of our region, myself included. We are currently looking at a number of obvious issues within the area and looking at putting some plans in place to establish some programming to work with the health unit, for instance, and hospitals regarding the opioid epidemic. So that's the first meeting that I had today. I have another meeting coming up on June the 1st with the Temiskaming Health Unit regarding another opioid task force, and I will bring those findings or the report to council regarding that as well. Number of different organizations working towards the same goal. The idea, or at least my idea, would be to try and get them all working with one another so we can establish those goals a bit quicker. Again, any and all findings during these meetings or any pertinent information I will bring forward to council for review.
Thank you very much, Councillor Johnson. Anybody else got anything? Excellent. Good work, folks. Very well done. Okay, council question and answers. I guess we've covered just about all of that. Closed session, we have none. Business arising, none. Confirmation bylaw. Be it resolved that bylaw 2021-22 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council of the corporation of the town of Cobalt be taken as read a first, a second, a third time, and finally passed on the 18th day of May 2021. And further, that said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and recorded in the bylaw book. Mover and a seconder, please. Joe and Angela. All in favor? Thank you. 21, adjournment. Be it resolved that the regular meeting of council be adjourned at, mover and a seconder, Doug and Pat, 7:14 p.m. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Very good night. Very well done.
Thank you, Your Worship. Well done yourself.